Welcome to the News in Motion podcast. Over the next several months leading up to the midterm elections, Gail will focus most of her podcasts on equipping and educating voters and encouraging people to register to vote. Gail is also available to serve as a community speaker on voting and civic engagement. If you are interested in working with her, email Gail at newsinmotionwithgail@gmail.com to schedule her today. If you're a candidate and would like to join Gail for a segment or submit your advertisement to be aired for a fee, email newsinmotionwithgail@gmail.com. Now for today's podcast.
What's up, everyone? This is Gail Dudley, and it is time for our latest podcast. Today is just me, and I really want to talk about the power of canvassing. The power of canvassing. If you remember, I have pretty much dedicated these next few weeks focused on bringing you content leading up to the November the 8th midterm elections. Now, let me also add, although I'm leading up to the elections, the content that I'm giving you can be used over and over and over again. If you are wanting to teach this in your classroom, you can use this information. If you're wanting to teach this or build your team of volunteers, you can use this information. My goal is to give you content that you can use. And I'm finding that not many people are talking about the content that I'm able to share with you on a regular basis. So hopefully you will enjoy this podcast for today. All right, y'all. So let's jump right in. The power of canvassing. Now, we all know that early voting for the 2022 midterm elections are already upon us. They're coming up. People are starting to do early voting, or they are mapping out how they're going to vote for early voting. Now is the time to really get to work. Looking to campaign. Looking for a campaign to volunteer in, I would encourage you to start with your local candidates that are running for the House or Senate. Again, please hear me, everyone. All 435 seats in the House of the United States are available. Every single seat is up for reelection. So one place we can all start is identifying that candidate or those few candidates of choice after you have conducted your research and begin to canvass on their behalf. Now, we're going to talk about calling constituents later, but today I want to focus on canvassing. And I realize that since the pandemic, we haven't really been all in 100% going door to door and knocking, talking with our neighbors about the election and what's to come. So, one thing you can do is contact the candidate campaign of your choice and ask them about opportunities. Right now, I believe all hands are on deck when it comes to canvassing. This weekend that we're in right now, if you are listening to this particular broadcast on the day it was released, which is today, Friday, September the 23rd, if you are listening to it today, this weekend, today, Friday, Saturday, September 24th, and Sunday, September the 25th, along with the next weekend, which is September the 30th, I believe, the 1st and the 2nd of October. These are the two key weekends to really get your canvassing organized and out there and knocking on doors. But you can call them up and say, I really want to know about some opportunities. What do you have? Some people may be moving to the postcards, where you are to do handwritten notes on postcards and send those out. Whatever that looks like, get started on that immediately. That's key. So you may say to yourself, well, where do I go? Where do I really look for this information? How do I know about the candidates beyond the commercials? And if we're honest, many of us are turning off our televisions now, not paying attention to any of the commercials that are out there. A great site, a great website to pin, to bookmark, to share on your social media is ballotpedia.org, and that's BALLOT, P as in Paul, D as in dog, A as in apple. All of this information will be in the description. But for now, visit Ballotpedia. It is a nonpartisan website. And there you can go and find out about the United States Congress election in your district. Just check it out, y'all. Take the time to read. Now, canvassing. Let's jump into canvassing. Canvassing is what I would term a practice that has been around for many, many, many years. And they're pretty much used by political organizations, nonprofit groups, and many others to connect with people individually. You also find a lot of salespeople who will use canvassing. A lot of utility companies will use canvassing. A lot of union type companies will use canvassing. It's a practice that has been used for years, and even in year 2022, it is probably one of the most valuable tools we have available when it comes to political organizations and nonprofit organizations. Y'all, this method of canvassing is widely used because it absolutely delivers excellent returns. There is a return on the investment of canvassing, and that's the investment of your time of going door to door. Now, there will usually be a team of volunteers. In the past, you may see one person, but now with everything that's going on, there's usually a group. There may be 2 to 3 groups on one street at a time, going door to door with their clipboards and with their ID and with information. Um, these teams of volunteers, organizations, onboarding, the training, the contact list, the follow through on contacts made. Canvassing, again, is probably the most successful outreach tool there is. It really is. So, whether you are a person who is volunteering to canvass, or if you're listening to this podcast and you're saying, well, that's not me, but you're that person who will answer the door, there's an opportunity for a connection so that you can get hands-on information. So even now, again, go back to ballotpedia.org. Another great one is www.vote411.org, and it's the number 4, the number 1, the number 1.org. Again, that's vote411.org. Go to these sites to get the information you really desire, you need, so that you can come up with questions to ask someone if a canvasser knocks on your door. Now, if you're the one out canvassing, I would still suggest that you look up some of the concerns of the constituents in your neighborhood so that you're able to answer their questions. Now, people are hesitant even today to canvass, especially with COVID still among us. Believe it or not, it's still here. And many people find themselves intimidated by the political process because they don't fully understand what's all involved. Well, let me share this with you, everyone who's tuning in. Voting is more. It is more than just going to your polling place to cast a vote. It really starts with some research, and I'm going to get into that in a few moments. But we really need to know who it is that we're voting for and why we are voting for them. And canvassing is a great way to either ask the question if you're the person answering the door, or when you're going to door canvassing, knocking on doors, that you are armed with information to share with those who are answering the doors. When you're canvassing, you have a chance to speak with the constituents of representatives, and representatives have an opportunity to speak with the constituents. Even in 2022, research shows that people stay away from attending town hall meetings or getting involved in local, state, or federal government activities simply because of intimidation. Now, the other part of that is most people learn of their candidates by watching television commercials, viewing local and national news, or receiving flyers while participating or attending a parade. So we got to do better, y'all, to get involved. This is a different kind of podcast. Y'all know I do some interviewing podcasts, but I also do some podcasts where I'm wanting to teach. And that's really my passion. My heartbeat is to teach and giving people voter education. I'm learning more and more. Earlier this week was National Voter Registration Day. That was on Tuesday, September the 20th, was the National Voter Registration Day. And more, I am finding that if we do not take the time to ask people if they have registered to vote, we are losing opportunities to get people registered and then to stick with that person all the way through the voting process. And that is key. So even when it comes to canvassing, it's an opportunity to check, especially this week and next weekend, to check to see if the individuals, everyone in that household or anyone connected to that household, if they are registered voters, and if they are, have they made the commitment to actually vote in this upcoming election? I know you all are tired of me saying this, but this is the most important midterm election, I believe, in our lifetime. I really believe that. So we have to get involved. We have to do better. We have to check on our people just to ask the question, are you a registered voter? Now, elected officials are the very ones who determine our health care, immigration, elder care, women's care, Medicare, Medicaid, taxes. They are the ones who confirm cabinet members, they write laws, and they confirm Supreme Court justices. Also, I want to remind everyone, in case you don't know, but I believe you do, that these same elected officials also have the power of what we call power of the purse. They're the ones who control the money and can impeach federal officials and elect the president in the case of an electoral college tie. These are the people we're voting for in November. I want y'all to get a handle of this. I do a segment on News in Motion. If you do not tune in or if you have not heard about it, it is every Monday through Thursday live at 7:25 a.m. Eastern Time. There's also a replay. It is on Facebook, my YouTube channel, and LinkedIn. Facebook is facebook.com/News in Motion. YouTube is youtube.com/Gail Dudley. And again, all that information is going to be in the description and then my LinkedIn page. And I do a new segment on Tuesday called It's on the Ballot. Earlier this week, I talked about it's on the ballot, and I talked about immigration is on the ballot. I talked about the plane packed with immigrants that was sent to Martha's Vineyard. And I talked about the people who took action to check on their housing, counseling, food, shelter, attorney, whatnot. And I talked about the dollars, the tax money, and how these things are managed. Well, ladies and gentlemen, immigration is on the ballot. I also talked about diversity is on the ballot. There's so much happening when it comes to diversity. Diversity of education, diversity of everyday life citizens, diversity of corporations, nonprofits, diversity of church, diversity of faith communities, diversity of retail establishment, diversity in the housing arena. Diversity, y'all. Diversity is on the ballot. I also talked about book banning is on the ballot. Um, there are currently 32 states where there are school districts who are banning books. Whether you agree or disagree with it, I want everyone to know book banning is on the ballot. Healthcare is on the ballot. You, me, we are on the ballot in this midterm election. We are on the ballot, people. We are on the ballot. So it's so important for us to get involved. And today, with me highlighting canvassing, here's an opportunity when you're canvassing to learn more about what's on the ballot. Or if someone's knocking on your door, you asking the question, where do I fit in this midterm election? So again, I say we must get involved. Canvassing. So you may say, well, what's allowed? What's all in here? What will this allow for? Well, I want to give you 5 things that canvassing can allow for. Number 1, the community to learn about state, local, and national issues affecting them. So someone comes knock at your door, or you're the one out there knocking on doors. Have a clear understanding about your local, your state, and national issues affecting you or the people that you are having the conversation with. Y'all, we got to stop fumbling around and giving some surface information. We need to dig deep and say, okay, this is what's really going on. And here's why it's going on. And here's the outcome if we vote this way or if we vote that way, to have some real substance behind that conversation. Let me pause for a moment. I am at the age of 57. I am shocked when it comes to people knowing about the district they live in. I'll ask people, what district do you live in? They're like, I don't know. Why don't you know this information? I'll ask people, well, who's your representative? I don't have any idea. Why don't we know our representatives? Y'all, there's so much information there because knowing this information helps us to consider who to vote for. I'm real concerned about voting based upon a name or voting based upon personality or popularity, let me say, or voting based upon a commercial we listen to. I also need to add here, and this happens. I sit around when I'm doing these panel discussions or small groups, or I'm in a college classroom or a high school classroom, and I hear this so many times, and we need to stop it, people. We need to stop it. I will hear people say things like, oh, I voted for them because of their name. I'm like, what? And they will say, well, yeah, I'm a female and I saw a female on the list, so I voted for the female. Well, do you know anything about that female? Well, no. Are you kidding me right now? I've had people say that to me. I've had people say to me, it's by name association. They're like, I think I heard that name or read that name on a brochure that came to my house. So I said, oh, that sounds familiar. I'm going to go with that. Are you kidding me? Y'all, ballotpedia.org, vote411.org, and there are others out there. I would encourage you to please go to those sites and research the candidates. You can even print off a sample ballot by going to those sites. You can even look at their public record. And when I say their public record, their public voting record, you can look and see how many times they have abstained from voting or they decided to not show up for the voting. These are our tax dollars that we are paying for these individuals in office. These are people in office who have free health care that we pay for. And we are using our hard earned dollars trying to stay afloat. Understand why you vote and who you are voting for. And I should also add, and I believe I said this in a previous podcast, there was someone who won an election in Indiana who was sitting behind bars having been convicted of murdering their wife. First of all, why are they still on the ballot? Second of all, why did people vote for that person? These are questions we need to ask ourselves. And that's why I said earlier, we should go to these town hall meetings and ask the difficult questions. We must ask the difficult questions. Okay, let me keep going. Number 2, canvassing, for instance, can allow for the opportunity to share information about upcoming town hall meetings, about debates, about elections, specific candidates, runoff elections, special elections, issues on the ballots, and other political events. That's what canvassing can do. So even if you're saying, you know what, I think I want to volunteer in this area to become someone who knocks on doors, this is information you want to learn so that you know, so that if that person answers the door and they ask you these questions, you have an answer or you have a website that you can share with them. It's so important. That also helps build trust for that particular candidate. That helps build trust. Number 3, the possibility for activism and grassroots organizing to help inform people interested in becoming a part of civic engagement. So, people ask, well, what's grassroots organizing? Well, it's really that local organizing. It's that local opportunity to connect with someone and to share with them what's going on within the community, even including PTA and PTO, including board meetings, recreation centers, townships, commissioners, all of that's involved here. Number 4, community action visibility on a local level. So it's really saying, okay, we're not just going to focus on the federal. We want to bring this local as well and talk about the candidates within our neighborhood. It gives you an opportunity to meet your neighbors, if I'm real honest with it. And then another thing, it can allow for petitions to be circulated in a short period of time. So many great conversations can come from canvassing. Vital questions to constituents and potential constituents, sharing these questions. And together you can discover answers either through debates or town hall meetings. Debates on a local level are poorly attended. And I want to raise the question on this podcast and ask, why is that? Why is that? Especially when you're paying an HOA fee. Why wouldn't you go to HOA meetings or town hall meetings or debates? But they are poorly attended. Poorly. All 3 of those. Poorly. PTO, PTA meetings, poorly attended. And we need to really think about, what are we missing? And then we get mad. If I can be really honest with you here, we become angry at times because something is passed in these meetings and we didn't agree with it. Well, you could have been the person who broke the tie vote if you would have showed up to the meeting. Just thought I'd put that out there for you. I have a good friend. Her name is Miss Sheila. She's a council person on the UA Council in Central Ohio. She sent an email a couple of weekends ago that included information to help encourage people considering canvassing during the political season. Now, she started her email by stating that signups for a canvas that she was organizing were low. She continued by sharing that face to face conversations can honestly influence the election. However, campaigns are struggling to get volunteers out at their canvases. Again, we need to ask ourselves the question, why is it that canvas are low? I want y'all to think about that for a moment. Many people say, oh, I don't want to get involved. Why not? This involves you. This involves your legacy. This involves the young people on your street or in your neighborhood or attending your local school. So why not get involved? I think that's where we need to start, by asking that question to ourselves. Why not get involved? And I know today there can be some real concerns with why we're not participating. There can be some real concerns as to our involvement. I've heard that people are told if they are participating in certain events, they could lose their job. I think you might want to check with an attorney to make sure that's true, if they're just trying to discourage you from getting involved. People are saying there's just that the political, and I've heard this one, y'all, the political process has become too political. Well, yes, it's a political process. So we have to think about these things and ask those tough questions. Now, again, I want to stress that elections are more than going to your polling location on the day of elections or if you vote early. I want to talk just a moment about responsible voting. And I'm tying this into canvassing because I think this is key. I think if you decide to contact the candidate of your choice, where you have done some research and you have decided to give that candidate your full support, I really want you to consider volunteering. Again, I'll talk about making phone calls in another podcast, but you may say, okay, canvassing is not for me. But I'm willing to make some phone calls. I'm willing to send some text messages, or I'm willing to write some postcards. Beyond that part of it, it's very important to always ask the question, is everyone in your home a registered voter? Even if they missed a deadline to vote for this upcoming election, that's a question we can still ask, because at some point in time, another election is rolling around and that person would have already been a registered voter. So don't miss this opportunity. So I'm tying in voting with this piece on the power of canvassing, because there's some responsibility to voting that I want to share with you. And there's 4 pieces. Our responsibility is to research each candidate, conducting our own research, asking our own questions. Again, ballotpedia.org, or you can go to vote411.org. You can also go to vote.us. I have tons of links, but those are just a few I just want to share with you, nonpartisan links at that. Number 2, and you keep hearing me talk about this, and I'm going to keep sharing it. Attend town hall meetings. There's so much information, vital information you can glean from a town hall meeting. You can watch the candidate's body language. You have an opportunity to ask questions and see how they respond, or how they choose not to respond to the question that you have asked. These are opportunities, people. Don't miss these opportunities. Number 3, ask the necessary questions. Again, that's to your candidates or to the candidates' team members, or to those who are doing door knocking, which is also called canvassing. And then number 4, being open to listening to the conversations and getting involved in the election process as a volunteer. What do I mean by that? There are some conversations that I just sit and listen to, because I want to get an understanding as to why they are strongly opposed or for an issue or candidate. And I want to see, is it emotional or is it something that they have experienced? Is it something that they have witnessed and that they can back it up and they have proof to it? Again, that's for or against. So I want to be open to listening to these conversations because I want to learn. I want to learn from them. And I would encourage everyone else to do the same thing. That's our responsibility. All right, y'all. The last weekend in September, which we are here, if you're listening to this podcast at its release, and then the first weekend in October, which actually starts on Friday, September the 30th, and then October the 1st and 2nd, are essential to the November 8th, 2022 election. The reason being, this is what we call the candidates' last opportunities to get out, door knock, and to influence their constituents. That's what, and we call this civic engagement as well. Because anyone in politics will share with you that this is the final weekend to have that opportunity, because after the first weekend in October, campaigns shift their focus more on getting people they have already spoken to actually show up and vote. Now, if I can be real honest with all the listeners here on this podcast, I think it's a darn shame that we have to make sure that people show up to vote. You do know that this is our civic responsibility to, one, register to vote, and two, actually vote. And I get it. People say my vote doesn't matter. It does matter. There are some elections that have been won by 1, 2, or 3 votes. There are some elections who have been won by 100 votes. I mean, I'm talking small margins because somebody said, "Oh, I'm not going to worry about it. I'm going to just stay home. I think they're going to win." People, there's research out there that will say to you that there's a huge number of people who have made the statement, "Oh, they're going to win. I'm not going to worry about it," and their candidate loses. But if they actually had their people come out and vote, they would have won. I just want to say that to you. So don't think that way. Do not think that way. But I think it is ludicrous that people are registered voters and make the decision not to vote. That makes no sense to me whatsoever at all. And we have to change that narrative. Now, let me be honest and let you know that canvassing is a lot of work. It can make for a very long day, but it can be fun and it can be an opportunity to network with others. So I want to leave this podcast with 2 things. Number 1, consider reaching out to the candidate that you plan on voting for in the midterm elections and sign up to canvass. You only have a short period of time to make that decision. Number 2, poll workers are still needed. Repeat that after me. Poll workers, and that's the election poll workers, are desperately needed. News in Motion has a distinct link with this nonpartisan organization, and I want you to consider becoming a poll worker. Go to www.powerthepolls.org/news in motion. Again, that's going to be in the description, so you can just click on it. powerthepolls.org/news in motion, and consider becoming a poll worker. Why? There's no secret, and I've said this many times for several years now, and so I'll say it again today. Polling locations will close first in the marginalized and poor communities, which means those individuals will have difficulty to getting to the next polling location because more often than not, there's not a public transportation to get them there. They may not have transportation, their own personal transportation to get them there. And it can be difficult for people to even know where other polling locations may be. And they risk, they how do I want to say this? They may, and the key word is may, face suppression going someplace where they're intimidated or uncomfortable. Yes, I said it. So please, please consider becoming a poll worker. And to make that work in this upcoming election, you really need to sign up within the next couple of weeks. Again, go to powerthepolls.org/news in motion. Now, do you need assistance in finding information to support your candidate? You can contact me at newsinmotion@gmail.com. Again, newsinmotion@gmail.com. Be sure to follow my Instagram. My Instagram is at Gail Dudley, and that is GAIL, D as in David, U, D as in David, LEY. That's also my handle on Twitter. Facebook is facebook.com/news in motion. Please consider liking and following that page. And if you are on YouTube, please consider subscribing to my YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/Gail Dudley. I want to know what kind of topics you want me to make sure I cover during this election season. We have several people that we're going to be doing interviews with, and I want to make sure I am meeting the needs of the community. I am grateful that you tune in to this podcast. No, it's not a popular podcast. No, we don't have millions of downloads, but we are here to give you information. Today, I thought it was important to just come on here myself and what I call my workshop type podcast today, my educational podcast, and to give you information. I am always available to come be a panelist, to host your panel, to come to your classroom, to speak, your churches, your synagogues, your mosque, wherever that may be, to the library, to hold a community town hall, whatnot, to do some workshops. You can email me at that same email address. And if it works with my schedule, I will show up. We are also looking for sponsors. We would love for you to become a Patreon member. You can go to patreon.com/Gail Dudley and become a patron. Or you may say, you know what? I love what she's doing. I want to send a check. Just email us and I will send you that information. We have a fiduciary agent, which is Making a Difference LLC in Central Ohio. We would love your support. I am doing this now 24/7. I am what they call the audacious advocate. And I love the work that I'm doing. I pride myself on bringing facts. Even when we think about News in Motion is a grassroots media outlet, aggregated news, who gives out relevant commentary with a call to action mixed with an inspirational message. And I share all that to say that there's so many people who are writing in asking for help. If you do not, and I say asking for help, they're asking for information, they're asking for education. And so I'm doing the research and I'm supplying that information to them. So this has become my full-time job, if you will, or my full-time ministry. And I could use your help in this season, whether that's $1, $10, $100, $1,000, whatever it is. I could really use your help in this season to continue to do the work that I'm doing. It's nothing for someone to call me up and say, can you walk me through what I need to do with Medicare? Or can you walk me through with what I do with Medicaid? If you are not receiving what I call my e-newsletter, that's the electronic newsletter, it's free. You can go to my website, and on that homepage, scroll down a little bit towards the bottom on the right-hand side, it says subscribe. It is free. Subscribe to that. That usually comes out every Monday or Tuesday morning. Sign up for that. You'll see the content there, and you'll see what I'm doing, and hopefully that will encourage you to give to this work. I greatly appreciate it. If you're not looking for a tax receipt and you just want to send what we call a Cash App, if you're familiar with Cash App, my Cash App sign is the $ M as in Mary, I M as in Mary today, TODAY, and that stands for Ministry in Motion. So MIM today. And I just want to say right here, thank you. Thank you so much for even considering to give to the work that I'm doing. This work makes my heart sing. I'm extremely passionate about it. I'm learning so much as I go along. I do reach out to attorneys for information. I reach out to different nonprofit organizations for information. I connect people. So I'm a connector, so to speak. So I'm available. And I love hearing people say, thank you for this information. I had no idea. Well, there was a time that I didn't have an idea either. And I decided, why reinvent the wheel, or why make people look for this information themselves when I have it? Or I'm willing to research it. I'm willing to go take the 5 hours, 2 hours, 20 minutes, whatever it is, to research this information for them. So that's what I do. That's who I am. And again, thank you so much for tuning in. We're growing, and I'm really excited about what's to come. But for now, I'm just here to educate and share this type of information with you. All right, everyone, that's all I have. And as you know, I sign off by saying stay well and remember to make some bold moves. Take care.